God is in control. Lessons from Daniel, Darius, and Cyrus. Have you ever felt like you're in charge of your own destiny? Maybe you've heard the saying, you can be anything you want to be if you work hard enough. While it's true that hard work is important, there's a deeper truth. God is ultimately in control of everything, including the rise and fall of nations and leaders. The Bible makes it clear that God rules over the affairs of mankind and directs history according to his plan. One powerful example of this is the story of Daniel and the kings who ruled during his lifetime, especially Darius the Mede and Cyrus the Persian. These men thought they were in charge, but they were simply tools in God's hands. Their stories teach us about God's sovereignty, the dangers of pride, and the importance of trusting in him. To understand God's control over history, let's start with the fall of Babylon in Daniel 5. Babylon was one of the most powerful empires of its time, and King Belshazzar thought his kingdom was invincible. But one night, as Belshazzar hosted a lavish feast, a mysterious hand appeared and wrote a message on the wall: Mene, Mene, Tekel, and Parsin. Terrified, the king called for Daniel to interpret the writing. Daniel told him the message was from God and that Belshazzar's reign was coming to an end because of his arrogance and failure to honor God. That very night, the prophecy came true. The Medo-Persian army invaded Babylon, and King Belshazzar was killed, Daniel 5:31. The Bible says in Daniel 5:31 that Darius the Mede received the kingdom, being about 62 years old. Darius became the ruler of Babylon under the larger Medo-Persian Empire. This sudden change of power shows how God can raise up and remove leaders according to his plan. Babylon had seemed unstoppable, but God proved that no human kingdom is beyond his control. Darius the Mede wasn't just a random ruler who happened to take over Babylon. God used him to accomplish specific purposes, including teaching an important lesson about humility. In Daniel 6, we read about how Darius was tricked into signing a decree that no one could pray to any god or man except him for 30 days. Daniel, who had faithfully served God for years, refused to stop praying and was thrown into a den of lions. However, God protected Daniel, and when Darius saw this miracle, he acknowledged God's power. He issued a decree that everyone in his kingdom should fear and revere the God of Daniel. Daniel 6:26-27. This story shows that even powerful rulers like Darius are subject to God's authority. It also reminds us that God can use difficult situations, like Daniel's time in the lion's den, to reveal his glory and bring people closer to him. While Darius played an important role in God's plan, another ruler, Cyrus the Persian, was even more significant. Long before Cyrus was born, God spoke through the prophet Isaiah, specifically naming Cyrus as the one who would allow the Jewish people to return to Jerusalem and rebuild the temple. In Isaiah 44:28, God says, "Who says of Cyrus, 'He is my shepherd, and he shall fulfill all my purpose,' saying of Jerusalem, 'She shall be built,' and of the temple, 'Your foundation shall be laid.'" This prophecy, given about 175 years before Cyrus came to power, is a stunning example of God's control over history. In Isaiah 45:1, God calls Cyrus his anointed, saying he would use him to subdue nations and open doors. True to the prophecy, Cyrus conquered Babylon and issued a decree allowing the Jewish exiles to return to their homeland and rebuild the temple, Ezra 1:1-4. Even though Cyrus didn't worship the God of Israel, God used him to fulfill his promises to his people. One of the biggest lessons from the stories of these kings is the danger of pride. Pride is when we think we're in control and forget to honor God. King Belshazzar's downfall in Daniel 5 was directly linked to his arrogance. He used the sacred vessels from God's temple to throw a drunken party, showing complete disrespect for God. As a result, his kingdom was taken from him that very night. The Bible warns repeatedly about the dangers of pride. Proverbs 16:18 says, "Pride goes before destruction, and a haughty spirit before a fall." This was true not only for Belshazzar, but also for many other leaders throughout history. Pride blinds us to our dependence on God and sets us up for failure. In contrast, humility opens the door for God's grace. James 4:6 reminds us, "God opposes the proud, but gives grace to the humble." You might be wondering what all of this has to do with you. After all, you're not a king or queen ruling over a nation. But the truth is, the same God who ruled over the empires of Babylon and Persia is in control of your life too. He knows everything about you, your strengths, your weaknesses, your dreams, and your struggles. Just like he had a plan for Daniel, Darius, and Cyrus, he has a plan for you. Sometimes life might feel chaotic, and it's easy to think you're the one in control of your destiny. But the Bible reminds us that God is the one guiding our steps. Proverbs 19:21 says, "Many are the plans in a person's heart, but it is the Lord's purpose that prevails." When you trust God and submit to His will, you'll find peace and purpose, even in the midst of uncertainty. So what does all of this mean for you today? First, it's a reminder to stay humble. In a world that constantly pushes you to promote yourself, whether it's through social media, achievements, or popularity, it's easy to fall into the trap of pride. But true success comes from relying on God and giving Him the glory for everything you accomplish. Second, the stories of Daniel, Darius, and Cyrus teach us to trust God's timing. Daniel waited over 60 years to see the fall of Babylon and the fulfillment of God's promises. In the same way, you might have to wait for God's plan to unfold in your life. Be patient and keep seeking Him, knowing that He is always in control. Finally, these stories show the importance of standing firm in your faith. Daniel didn't compromise, even when it meant being thrown into a lion's den. His faithfulness not only saved him, but also led a pagan king to acknowledge God's power. In the same way, your commitment to God can be a powerful witness to those around you. The stories of Daniel, Darius, and Cyrus remind us of a powerful truth. God is in control of everything. He raises up leaders and brings them down. He fulfills His promises, even across centuries. And He works through both believers and non-believers to accomplish His purposes. As a teenager, it's easy to feel like you're in charge of your own life, but the reality is that God is the one guiding your steps. When you humble yourself, trust His timing, and remain faithful to Him, you'll experience the peace and joy that come from living in His will. Remember, God's plans are always greater than anything you could imagine. So let go of pride, seek Him first, and watch how He works in your life. As Daniel 4:37 says, "Those who walk in pride He is able to humble." Let's choose humility and let God lead the way.